break up, it'll be with me stapled to your arm.
It certainly was an exciting year for theater here at Desert Performs. And although we had to close our season prematurely due to coronavirus, it will be remembered as one of the most rewarding and talked about seasons in our 12-year history. Hi, I'm Michael Shaw, the Artistic Director of Desert Performs. While our doors remain closed, we would like to take this virtual opportunity and share with you some of the talent responsible for making Hand to God, Daniel's Husband, and Sweat so incredibly special this season. This online program, Creating for the Stage, is a series of discussions with those creative people who make theater happen here on this stage. In the second of 4 episodes, today's discussion features the DTL-nominated cast of the smash hit comedy Hand to God, which Bonnie Gilgallen of CV Independent calls, quote, a perfectly cast, hilarious tour de force. Sponsors for this episode include Trio Restaurant, Elber and Ludim Camacho, and Tom Rogers and Sally Anderson. Thank you for joining us for this limited series. And now, please welcome David Perry.
Hello, I'm David Perry, and welcome to Creating for the Stage, discussions with the people who make shows happen. In this case, the shows of the award-winning Desart Performs of Palm Springs. Today we're speaking with cast members from the production of Hand to God, which ran November 8th through 17th, 2019. Please join me in welcoming Eddie Vona, Yo Younger, and Danny Gomez. So we're going to start with a question for you, Eddie, because, pardon the pun, you really had your hands full in this role. At what point during the rehearsals for Hand to God did you realize that this was not Sesame Street?
Well, I did know that beforehand. I had read the play before, and I think probably maybe when Danny scooped Yo up and they made out for about 10 minutes during rehearsal, I probably knew that it wasn't Sesame Street. But that just made it more fun, honestly.
So, Yo, you've been put on the spot here. I've seen you in a number of roles in the Coachella Valley, and you have played vamps and victims, but always beautifully elegant. What did you draw on from your personal experience to play this woman who, in a very real way, is possessed herself?
Well, the character was so engaging to me. From the first time I read the script, I was just like, oh my God, I have to play this woman, because she was just this combination of crazy, wacky, sweet, wounded, pent up, and all of these things at once. And she, and I saw how crazy the play was and all the things I was going to have to do. And I thought, okay, this is going to be a challenge.
And, Danny, I gather that sometimes besides your really formidable acting talent, you're called to play characters that are younger than you, or characters that have a, dare I say, kind of a James Dean-esque quality about them. What did you draw on for your characterizations in Hand to God?
Well, I have to say that that might be one of the biggest compliments I have ever received. I don't very often get compared to James Dean, except maybe in one photo that I took 30 times to get that one perfect actual image at the end. As far as Hand to God went, this was my favorite play that I had ever seen. I saw it on Broadway years ago, and I told myself that I wanted to be in it. And right before this play, actually, I had told my boyfriend I was done doing theater for a little while so I could pay him some attention. And then I saw it was casting. I was like, I have to do this show. And for this character in particular, like I actually had a very angsty teenage life. Like I was definitely that kid in school who was listening to punk rock and was very like just emo and angsty. And I drew on a lot of that for it. And then I don't know, it's that fun kind of slow archetype. Like he's kind of a dumb guy, and that's so much fun to play. Having your thoughts like occur as slowly as they do with him.
Break it for me, Timmy.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, rip it up.
Eddie, I understand that. Well, I mean, I saw you. You became quite expert at bringing these puppets to life. What was the most difficult thing about breathing a personality into Tyrone?
It's a boring answer, but I actually would say the mechanics of it, because I wasn't just playing Tyrone most of the time. I was playing both Jason and Tyrone at the same time. So I had to practice, I had to rehearse by myself in a way I've never rehearsed before, where it was kind of choreography almost. Because if I, as Jason, am saying these lines and looking over here and acting as Jason, my hand has to be doing something totally independent of what I'm doing. So I really had to practice those things over and over and over and get them by rote so that my hand knew when to move as Tyrone while I was speaking as Jason. So I would say that was the most challenging part, was doing that choreography every night.
Shut up. How do you think Timothy gets all the girls? He's better looking. Yeah, that helps. But just watch him. Watch him. He's not very nice. No, he's not. He's not very nice. He's already had.
Yeah, and for you, Yo, what was the biggest challenge for you? And that can be answered either physically or from an acting point of view in this role.
There were a couple of things. One, Marjorie was so wounded and fragile and just about to fall apart at the seams from the very beginning of the play. But I was not allowed to show that, because she also lives in this world of everything's fine as long as you pray. And it was a lot of denial going on. So as an actress, it's always challenging for me if I'm unable to show certain parts of a character, like the emotional stuff, too soon. So that was very challenging, to make her seem just like everything was fine and she was on top of everything. And then physically, but I knew I could do it. I mean, I did noises off, and ran up and down 3 flights of stairs every night. So I went, I think I can do this. But, the risqueness of it also intrigued me.
Well, thank you for giving me the segue to my next question. So, Danny, you've told us about your boyfriend, and I've heard people over the years say, well, a gay actor can't play a straight role, and vice versa. And we all know, myself as a one-time actor, that that's not true. What was it like getting it on with Yo Younger?
Well, I gotta say, it was great. No, we had so much fun doing it. The play. She made me laugh so hard, and she was down for everything. And honestly, I hear it. Honestly, I'm the same way. Like, if I'm gonna do something, I want to do it 100%. And it was so much fun getting to act with her in this and getting to do that scene, because it wasn't really challenging, because we both just went for it the same. And I think we were both in character enough to where we let it be real.
Well, and Eddie, now for the maybe 3 people in the Coachella Valley that didn't see Hand to God, now they're saying, I got to see this play. It sounds like, The Graduate or something. So Yo and Eddie, Yo and Danny had some moments, but you had, again, the pun, your hands full. How did you make both real and be able to not be distracted by 2 puppets fornicating on your arm?
That was incredibly difficult, because I'm pretty sure some of the nights I was smirking behind the puppets, trying to talk to Brenna and having them fornicating at the same time. But for that part, I just really, really tried to concentrate on what Jason was going through, which at that moment is an incredible incredibly vulnerable moment for him, where he's confronting the fact that he doesn't really know who he is yet, and trying to communicate that to someone for the first time. So I really had to concentrate on that while my hand was having sex with Brenna's hand, basically.
I know what's going down. It's just, don't look at them. Look at me. It's just too good, even if it ain't real.
Yo, I was trained in the Uta Hagen method when I was in school, and we've all probably seen that book, An Actor Prepares with the hands. For you, before you go on stage, what do you do to prepare?
It's interesting you say Uta Hagen, because that's how I was trained. And I know exactly what you're talking about, all the object exercises and moment to moment. So I always have to make sure, once I breathe deep and get rid of the nerves, I have to have immediately in my mind, where did I just come from? Where am I going to? And what's my intention, so that it doesn't look like an entrance?
Pastor.
Because some actors can do that. You have to really think about it. So if I'm in that moment, then I just appear through the door instead of here I am on stage, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Danny, talk to us about how you prepare.
I guess for this show in particular, a big part of it was dialect. They are in Southern Texas, and the nice thing about a Texas dialect is it isn't any one specific type of Southern. So I felt like once I got that down, then that was one character aspect. Once the kind of wardrobe and physicality came in, that was another kind of big aspect, because he is such a character. In general, when I'm getting ready for a role, though, learn all the lines exactly as they're written. I don't like paraphrasing anything. You have to honor the author's intention. Get all that down, and then get up and start playing with it. Every night before I went on stage, I literally walked through the entire show, mouthing my lines along and making sure that I know exactly where I need to be and where I end up, so that when I'm on stage, I'm not thinking about that. I'm just living in that moment. My body knows what it's supposed to be doing.
I'll take that bookshelf. See?
And before I go on stage, I just take a big, deep breath and exhale, and boom. Magic.
Magic. Well, it's all supposed to look like magic and fresh every second. And Eddie, I think my memories of watching you with those puppets just never cease to amaze me, because they were like an extension of your body. And it's something I wanted to ask you during the play but didn't get a chance to. So I ask you now is, when did you come to love and be able to perform with puppets? Was it before this, or was it a result of doing this play?
I worked for an educational theater company, and we had puppets in the show for the youngest kids. And I remember the puppeteer commenting that I took to it like a duck to water, because I loved the puppets. I couldn't take the puppet off my hand. I really, really enjoyed I enjoyed making something out of nothing, giving life to this inanimate object and finding out all the things that each particular puppet could do. So I was really excited to work with this puppet, because I had never worked with one on this long of a show and had scenes that long with a puppet. So it was definitely a step up in terms of challenge and fun for me working with puppets.
Yo, when the audience leaves a show, I think every actor on stage thinks, I know the emotion they're leaving with. What do you think the audience left with about Hand to God, and specifically about your performance? And what would you want them to have left thinking?
I think that a lot of audience members were probably very confused, because the ending is it can be interpreted many ways. But I think the major theme of the play is primarily about grief, and how grief can really affect people in negative ways if they don't deal with it. And this was a case of two people that, they held it all inside, and they both went crazy in their own ways.
Mama, did you hear me?
Get you a parfait.
I can't do it no more.
That's what we'll do. We'll get you a parfait. You know, parfait means perfect in French.
Mama.
So I would hope that with my character, that they would see that Marjorie really was a loving mother, but she just got confused and distracted, because of grief. And go to therapy, get the help you need. Don't be afraid. I think I would hope that would be one of the messages they left with.
Danny, and this question is specifically meant to be answered in a pre-COVID world, because I'm going to ask some COVID questions after this. But before March 2020, when you weren't on stage or preparing to be on stage, what do you do?
Well, I don't know. I'm very busy acting theatrically in everyday life. But I run, I bike a lot. I spend a lot of time with I was going to say boyfriend, but he is now my fiance. No big deal. I spend a lot of time with him. I love going to the movies. Now I guess I enjoy watching them on my couch. And yeah, I try to do as much as possible. Like pre-COVID, my schedule was always completely filled, whether it was with acting obligations, or I also mentor fifth graders with an organization called Young Storytellers, where we teach stories or script writing to students. Yeah, I just try to be as active as possible, whether it's physically or within the craft in some aspect.
We've just got a few minutes left, and each of you has talked about education. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Eddie, let's start with you. You worked in young people's education. Was there a moment, either when you read the script or when you were on stage and you thought, I don't know if I can take my mom, my aunt, my sister, or so-and-so to this play, and how did you deal with it? And that's going to be the same question for all three of you.
Yeah, it gets real pretty quickly. He doesn't hold back, the writer, because like Yo said, these people are dealing with such grief that it really comes out in these obscene ways. But most of the people I know would have been pretty down to come see it.
And how about you, Yo? I mean, some of the stuff that was coming out of your mouth and ripping off the blouse and stuff, did you ever think, I don't know if the Coachella Valley audience is ready for this? Was there anyone that you said, Mama, maybe you don't see this play?
Well, luckily, my parents don't live here, because they would not be coming. No. And I would not invite them, and I would not want them to come, because my mother is Marjorie. And she would have probably been very offended by a lot of this stuff. So, and yeah, the thought, I did actually think a few times, our audience is going to like me after this play, because, I was just ripping my shirt off and jumping, straddling Danny. And I mean, it was so much fun, but I thought, I think they're going to be shocked. But it was so much fun. And he was the best scene partner for that kind of a scene, because like he said earlier, we talked a lot about it, and we just had this ultimate trust in each other. And we just said, let's just go for it. Give me what you got. And so it was great.
You said your mother is Marjorie. What do you mean by that? Did you call on the experience of her in this character?
A little bit. I mean, Marjorie has a lot more to her in different ways than my mother does. But I think the part that was the most similar to me was that, my mother just thinks everything's going to be fine as long as you pray. Everything's fine. No, my children aren't doing anything wrong. No, we live under God's rule. And, and Marjorie was that way a lot, and very religious. And that was obviously what she was trying to portray. So, but yeah, I used a little bit of my mother for that, but the rest of the stuff, that was all me and other people that I drew from.
Right. And so, Danny, would you have taken any of the parents of the students you teach to see your performance in Hand to God?
Well, no. Well, I don't know. I don't really know their parents very well. The program itself, it's a great program. We each semester have a 7-week program where we go to the school once a week. We teach the kids the elements of story writing. They will write a screenplay, and then we bring in professional actors who act out their screenplays for them. My particular students are in 5th grade. Their parents may not trust me quite as much if they were to see this show. But in general, like I have a rule with everything that I do. If the project itself I believe in has a good message and is a good project, then whatever my part of it is, everyone can just get over it. Come out and see it, and maybe I'm the bad guy, maybe I'm the good guy, maybe I'm the naked guy. Whatever I'm doing, if you leave feeling the way that I'm hoping you will, then it was totally worth it.
So last 2 questions, and the first one is rapid fire. In 2 words, tell me how you would describe not the play, but your experience of doing Hand to God. Eddie, we'll start with you.
Fun, crazy.
Yo?
Erratic, challenging, scary.
Danny?
Rough and fast.
Got it. So the last question is, well, it's the obvious one. Here we are in a time when live theater isn't permitted. I'm sure we've seen all the stories on the news. For each of you, and I'll start with you, Eddie, how are you managing to keep dreaming during COVID? And what's the first show you want to do when it's over?
Well, I don't do much. Film and TV is kind of coming back, but I don't really do much of that. I'm kind of a diehard theater person. So I've actually turned to writing. I've been writing just more stories and taking a writing class, and that's been really, really cool. And I don't think I would have done that if it hadn't been for the pandemic. So it's kind of a silver lining. But if I could do a show right now or when it's over, it would probably, my dream role has always been Lewis from Angels in America. So that's probably what I would do.
Yo?
Well, it's been challenging during COVID because I don't get to act, and I feel sometimes like, am I still an actress? Because when you don't get to do what you're so used to doing, it can really be debilitating in a way. But I know it will pass, and I have to stay positive, and I know there's going to be much more work. And I think if I already got to do my dream role 2 years ago, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I got to play Martha. So that was my bucket list one. But if I had to pick another one, I'd love to do Love Letters. It's a 2-person play. I don't know if you know it, but
I know it very well. I've seen it performed by a number of people, and it's about as far from Hand to God as you can get. I'm sure that someone watching this today will put you in that role. Danny, last word for you.
I have been really fortunate. I'm part of a theater company here in Los Angeles called The Road, and we did a couple Zoom plays. I also just did a Zoom reading of 3 different Wendy Wasserstein plays that played on Playbill over the weekend, which was great. And I have a couple projects lined up for spring that we're all supposed to be going up now. So honestly, looking forward to those has been the big thing that's been keeping me going. And reminding myself that I'm lucky to even have that amount of work. Like the days where I get really down, I just remember like you at least have that to look forward to. As far as like the next show that I want to do, it's The Inheritance, and it's going up at the Geffen. And Phyllis, if you're watching this, I know you got my emails. Please bring me in for it. I'm dying to do the show. Yeah, it's incredible, and the role of Toby is like one of the lead characters. He's just this very messed up guy, and I'm very drawn to those kind of characters. But for that show, I would be any role happily.
Great. Well, thank you all for speaking with us, and I really thank you all for sharing your artistry with us tonight. We've been speaking with Eddie Vona, Danny Gomez, and Yo Younger. I'm David Perry. Thank you for taking part in Creating for the Stage, discussions with the people who make shows happen. Tune in next week for the next segment. I'm David Perry. Thanks for watching.